right here is the brand new Insta360 GO 3, and at a first glance it looks exactly like a traditional action camera like this GoPro, for example. However, the biggest thing here is the fact that you can take it out of this little pod, attach it magnetically to any surface you want, and use this little pod to turn it on, use the flipped up screen to see what the camera is seeing, and use it as a remote to start recording from a distance or set up your shots. So first, let's see what you get in the box. I got a few additional accessories such as a 2-in-1 mini tripod in collaboration with PGY Tech, a quick release mount and a monkey tail mount, which is really cool as it bends easily and can be wrapped around an object for some creative positioning of the camera. Those and many more accessories you can find on Insta360's website, which of course I'll link below. Now, inside the GO 3 box you will see the camera itself, which is magnetically attached to the box, then a startup guide, a charging cable, and the following accessories: the magnetic pendant, the pod with the screen, and a pivot stand with adhesive on the bottom for sticking to a surface. So this is how the camera looks like. First, on the side you have this USB-C port for charging and this little latch that holds the camera inside the pod. If you press it, you can take it out, and it takes a little bit of force because it's really strongly attached by these magnets right here. On the back you have the screen, you have the power button and the Q button, which switches between modes. And on the bottom you have this mechanism for quick attaching and detaching to the quick release attachment. And if I press the Q button, I will change through the different modes that the camera has. So time shift, slow motion, loop recording, star lapse, interval shooting, HDR photo, photo, and video. And the rest we already went through them. The interface is quite simple, so swiping from the top will enable the settings menu where you have access to all sorts of different things that you can configure, such as the stabilization level, voice commands, brightness, all sorts of things, and you can even access more settings from here. Swiping from the bottom will enable the quick shooting menu where you can select your ratio, your resolution and frame rate. The maximum resolution this camera has to offer is 2.7K. Swiping from the right will enable the camera settings and you can select between auto and manual. And something that I like is the fact that you can set your ISO, for example, to be a specific value such as 100 like me, or you can set it to auto, or you can select these 400, 800, 1600 or 3200 max values, which means that the camera will decide for itself, but it will still have a ceiling for the ISO, so you don't have a lot of noise in your footage. You have the standard color profile and you have a lot more to choose from. So you can have these presets added to your footage so you don't have to color grade your footage afterwards, which is really convenient. You have the shutter speed, the white balance, and the EV settings. Swiping from the left will show you all the photos and videos you have recorded on this camera. And that's pretty much it. Similarly to the previous iteration of the GO 3, the GO 2, which I have in this AirPod type looking case, Insta360 seems to be really focused on improving their cases and maximizing the potential and the usability of their cameras, and now they've done it certainly because of that 2.2-inch flip-up screen that can be super useful to set up your shots, to use it for vlogging, to use it as a remote when the camera is attached on a place that is hard to reach and you're not sure what the camera is seeing. You can really set up your shot perfectly with this pod here, and I'm really digging the look and the style of this whole camera system. I would say the biggest difference between the GO 2 and the GO 3 is not only the fact that you have a screen and you have a lot more usability in terms of setting up your shots easily now, but you have a much bigger battery, so you can record up to 45 minutes on the GO 3, whereas on the GO 2 it was about 20-25, I believe. It's up to 50% more compared to the GO 2, and if you use, that's only if you use the camera itself. If you put it inside the pod, it can shoot up to 170 minutes with the pod. So that's almost 3 hours of shooting. And as soon as you put it back in the pod, it starts charging straight away, similarly to the Go 2, which is super convenient. So if you're traveling from one place to another, it will charge on the way there. The audio has been drastically improved compared to the Go 2 as well, and I'll talk about that later in the video. You'll see the difference yourself. But you have stereo microphones that record front and back. You have directional microphones, so if you're vlogging and you want to take advantage of just the front microphone, for example, you can set it up to that, or you can set it to wind reduction if you're using this camera for action sports, which is great. In terms of stabilization, you have 3 different options. Well, should I say 4, because you can have stabilization off, you have level 1, level 2, and level 3. And it's super convenient, the fact that when you select your stabilization, you have different descriptions for that type of stabilization, where Insta360 is telling you what this stabilization is best used for, so you don't have to guess. It's really convenient to see what this stabilization will be best to be used for. Keep in mind, depending on what type of stabilization you select to be applied on your footage, you might feel the lag on the screen. It's very noticeable when you're vlogging, because the more stabilization you apply to your footage, the more lag you will have on the screen. That's of course perfectly normal, but you need to be aware about that. And also, depending on what type of field of view you select, I'm currently using the ultra wide field of view, you might want to figure out a way to hold the camera so you don't see your hand inside the footage, because if I carry the camera like this, I'm holding it from the side right now, you will see part of my hand. If I carry it from the bottom, it's perfectly fine. Now, Insta360 is of course known for their portable cameras, and especially the Go series are super tiny and compact. And of course, you have a plethora of different accessories that you can use to mount these cameras pretty much anywhere you want. And because of that, this is my favorite, or at least one of my favorite ways to use the Insta360 GO 3, with this little attachment clip for the brim of your hat. So all you need to do is attach it, then take your Insta360 GO 3, place it right here in the middle, and it might look a little goofy, but this is the perfect way to capture some point of view shots, and they are perfectly leveled with where your head is looking at. So it makes it very natural, as opposed to the chest mount, for example, or any other mount that is a little bit harder to get that supernatural point of view. Here with this, it's super close to your eyes, so wherever you look, the camera also looks, and it makes for some great shots. There's one thing you need to know about the difference between the Go 2 and the Go 3 in terms of their size is, I wouldn't really say significant, but there is a little bit of a difference. So if you want to use the Go 3 with an old accessory that you have from the Go 2, you might have some problems with that, because the Go 3 is a little bit thicker, it sticks out a little bit more, it's also a little bit taller, and it's a little bit heavier as well. So the size is similar, but it's not exactly the same. So all these accessories that have like a little cradle where you put the camera inside, you won't be able to use them for the Go 3 because it's a little bit bigger. So you need to know about that. With a weight of just 35 grams, this camera will be perfect for any FPV drone you like, whether it's a 2-inch small quadcopter or a large 7 or even 9-inch drone that you can attach the camera to not only record footage, but also to record the gyro data from it. That will be a perfect choice for you. Now, when using this camera for FPV, I noticed that there is definitely a big improvement when it comes to the stabilization. The colors are great, and keep in mind I use the standard color profile. The flat color profile, for some reason I'm not a big fan of the flat color profile on this camera, and that's the same for all the previous iterations. It's just a small sensor that doesn't justify shooting in flat color profile. The standard color profile is just good enough, and it can definitely sustain some color grading without actually breaking the colors, so I'm a fan of that. And I have to say, in general, for FPV, especially if you're using this on a small quad, I think you'll be very happy, especially with the 3 different levels of stabilization. Really depends on how you plan to shoot your footage, how you plan to edit it afterwards, but I'm definitely noticing a big improvement in terms of how the footage looks like in terms of FPV. And for general usage, of course, it's perfect. You will probably not notice any like vibrations, any big jumps in the stabilization when you're doing daily activities, so that's a huge plus for the stabilization on the Go 3. Insta360 has always been great when it comes to stabilization, and the Go 3 is no different. I don't know how we got so lucky, but I think we have the whole hotel for us now. All the other guests have left, and it's just me, my wife, and our daughter here in this fantastic place, and I couldn't be happier. But with that being said, there's something that I want to mention when it comes to the Go 3, and that is the improved audio quality. Before, with many of the Insta360 products, but most importantly the Go 2, I always felt like the audio was lacking, and they always tried to make it better, but now it seems that they finally made it better. You can configure the camera in the settings to use stereo mode for both microphones, or you can set it to wind reduction mode, which is going to be very useful for action sports, for example. But now the audio is so much better that it actually makes this camera super useful in some scenarios where you really need a tiny camera that you can attach everywhere or anywhere, because previously it was great but the audio part was lacking, and because of that sometimes for some situations where you need that sound, the shots were really not that useful because of that. But now you can actually take advantage of the camera and use it to its maximum potential. Of course, the camera supports all the necessary creative features that you might be looking for in a camera like this, such as HDR photo, time shift, night time lapse, slow motion. It's waterproof up to 10 meters, so you can take it out of the pot, don't use it in the pot, take it out of the pot and you can use it in a depth of up to 10 meters in water scenarios. And of course the biggest thing in my opinion is the fact that this camera is magnetic, so you can attach it not only to this magnetic pendant that you have right here, which is super strong and it sticks immediately to the camera, and it's pretty hard to take it out of this, but not only to that, but to any magnetic surface you can attach this camera to, which makes creative shots very easy and very much fun to look for and try to create. With the Go 3 and the latest version of the Insta360 app, you can take advantage of some AI editing features, and Insta360 is really pushing hard on their AI editing. I think their app is becoming better and better with some really cool suggestions on things you can do with your camera, really cool tutorials inside the app where they show you how you can take advantage of some different features that the camera has to offer. And most importantly, the editing part, which is now easier than ever, because you can just select your favorite clips and click how to edit, and the AI system will edit a clip for you. If you're not into editing, you can take advantage of this feature, which is really cool, from the Insta360 app. And of course you can use the Insta360 Studio on your computer if you want to have a little bit more pro features and really take advantage of all the different settings that this camera has to offer to edit the footage the way you want. So I have the pricing list for the Go 3 here, and there are three different prices because you have a 32, a 64 and a 128 gigabyte version for this camera. So the 32 gigabyte is $380, the 64 gigabyte version is $400, and the 128 gigabytes is $430 from Insta360's official website, which I will link below. So my impressions of this Go 3 after using it for the past couple of weeks is that it's a great versatile camera that has been massively improved. I would have loved to see it shooting 4K instead of 2.7K. Personally, I think this would be just a killer camera and a killer combo if it had 4K on board. However, the 2.7K, especially when exported to 4K video on YouTube, actually looks great, and I doubt many people will see the difference, to be honest. It's just a great looking camera with a lot of versatility, a lot of different features that you can take advantage of, especially with the flip-up screen, which is one of my favorite things, and the improved audio as well. These two things make this camera an absolute must bring with me on my daily shootings. In my backpack, I will be bringing it with me for some behind the scenes content because it's so easy to just mount it anywhere and just snap a photo or shoot a video to show some behind the scenes content. And I think because of that simplicity and ease of use, this will be a very much used product for me in the upcoming months and even years, who knows. Yeah, that's pretty much it from my impressions of the Go 3. I think it's a fantastic camera, and I'll be showing you a lot more of the Go 3 in the upcoming weeks. I have some plans for it, and I have some content that I want to shoot with it, so be on the lookout for that, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you don't want to miss this video. This is Mike from Drone Supremacy. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one very soon. Ciao.